Hi, it's your boy, Anicaps here, and today we will be recapping and explaining the full story of the anime called Psychic Princess. The story begins with Princess Qian Shang-er's conflict with her father, as she begs him not to make her get married in the Yiwang mansion. Since she doesn't even know the lord of that mansion, she wants to be free to choose her own husband. Her father, Qian Aotian, explains that he is also opposed to the idea, but it was the emperor who had granted the marriage, and if they reject it and defy the imperial edict, the entire family will be executed. Therefore, Qian asks his daughter to do it for her family, but she keeps crying, saying that she can't do that to his only daughter. Qian's wife chimes in, commenting that Shang-er is not his only daughter. Qian then asks if she means the one from the Lingyun Mountains, but after thinking about it, he refuses, since they would be deceiving the emperor, and if it is found out, his entire family will be executed. His wife assures him that this will not happen, since the emperor said that he granted the marriage to his eldest daughter, and Yan Shuang is not his eldest daughter. They decide to change their names and identities. They just need to plan everything very well. The princess stops crying, smiling victoriously as she remembers that she is not her only daughter, as she has the trash of an older sister who was kicked out of the house. Due to this, she will be very useful if she can jump into that hell for her. The decision is made, and after planning it, the royal wedding takes place, where the eldest daughter of the Qian house, Jian Yunxi, is presented with a veil that covers her face. After the ceremony, Yunxi complains that she has been busy all day and can't even rest at night. Confused as to why she has to wait idly in a room, she tries to rush her staff to get all the ceremonies started, but the two people waiting outside laugh, explaining that they can't rush that. Before the princess's confusion, they clarify that it is something that she will understand later. Yunxi soon misunderstands the servant's conversation and in a panic hides under a table. Soon after, her new husband, Yi Yuming, the lord of the Yiwang mansion, walks into the room. However, he only arrives to clarify that if it were not for the imperial decree, she would be the least qualified to set foot in his mansion. He expresses that Qian Aotian is deluded if he thinks that he can control him with a political marriage, and she's nothing but a pitiful pawn. He also clarifies that in his heart, only Nan King Wan can be his wife. Finally, he says that since she likes to hide from him, he doesn't want to see her either, and then orders her staff to take her to the Qingyu Pavilion. Even so, Yunxi does nothing but rejoice at being the misfortune of her parents, since she no longer has to think of ways for her to like that man. Shortly after, the girl moves to the Qingyu Pavilion, an abandoned place in terrible condition, with a bad reputation for having evil spirit. Yunxi gets angry seeing how horrible and destroyed the place is, but she assures him that she can't fall that easily, especially since she is a wild beast that was raised in the Ling Mountains. Therefore, she spends her night trying to clean the place herself, but she soon realizes that it will be very difficult to do it alone, so she has no choice but to take out a small box, which she uses to summon a spirit called Rice Ball, a little ghost who gets mad at her for sealing it away for so long. Despite how angry the ghost is, she manages to convince it to help her, so they both manage to clean the pavilion in no time. Both are exhausted and hungry, but Yunxi decides to wear some ninja clothes that she found in the pavilion in order to go out undercover to look for food, since she could not sleep on an empty stomach. She runs on the roofs very safely, since during the day she managed to see where the kitchen is. However, the rice ball is left behind. It realizes that something is wrong, as something is draining its powers, then it is too weak to continue. Yunxi doesn't notice. She keeps running across the rooftops, but soon runs into Yi Wan, who immediately asks for her identity. She also doesn't recognize the man, as she has never seen him, but seeing that she is being treated like a thief, she acts defensive, asking who he is to ask. Yiwan lies to her, saying that he is a mansion guard, and asks if she even knows where she is. Seeing that she is not taken seriously, she decides to attack, but his clothes are out of place, and Yunxi points out that even though he said he is a guard, he is not wearing any uniform to patrol, but a strange long dress. She warns him that she will scream loudly if he gets close, but she is surprised to see that he approaches her at a speed that does not let her react. She blocks several attacks, but realizes that he is an expert, and soon Yiwan locks all of her joints, preventing her from moving. Seeing that Rice Ball doesn't show up to help her, Yunxi goes to use an amazing smoke bomb from her teacher. This smoke causes Yiwan to lose all his strength, and Yunxi runs away angrily because of not being able to get food. Yiwan notices that he has no strength left. He is assured that the smoke is definitely not something from the capital. The next day, as a reward for abandoning her, Yunxi makes Rice Ball push her on the swing, and doesn't hold back from her yelling for fun. She causes so much fuss with her fun, and it catches the eye of Yi Wang's brother, Yu Zemo, who approaches to find out who plays on the swing. When he approaches, Yunxi is surprised that such beautiful men exist, and tells him if he wants to use the swing too. He kindly replies that he can wait for her to finish, but Yun Tsai says that it's kind of late, and then she leaves the place. Yuzemo follows her and introduces himself, saying that he at least hopes they can be friends. The boy asks for her name, but rice ball covers Yunxi's mouth and prevents her from saying it. When the rice ball finally lets go, Yunxi thanks him for his concern and clarifies that she is just a new servant in the mansion. Yuzemo reassures her that her occupation doesn't matter and asks her name again, since it's rude that he said his and she didn't. Yunxi ignores him and keeps walking, but he runs up to her and explains that if he knew her name, he would be able to see her more often. Tired of his insistence, Yunxi takes him by his arm and forcefully throws him down the stairs. Soon after, Yuzemo tells Yi Wang what happened, but surprisingly he only expresses how delighted he is with the girl. While he had never been thrown off the shoulder like that, and she looked very interesting. Yu asks Yi Wang to give him that maid, but he explains that he has no idea which one it is, and he doesn't even know her name, and he just knows she's new. Yi Wang then asks to bring all the new maids who have come into Yu's mansion so that he finds the girl he is looking for. Yu is very happy, but seconds later he shows seriousness when his brother asks him how the investigation is going. He says that just as they expected, Chinan Aotian is finally showing his true colors and intentions. Yi Wang then leaves, assuring that he will get to the bottom of everything, and when he has the opportunity and the necessary evidence, he will wipe out the entire Qian family to make them pay for what they've done. On the other hand, Yun Xia spends her time walking while she recites a poem, but is shocked to hear someone reciting the other part of the poem. Yun Xia continues to recite poem, while following the voice reciting along with her. When she finally finds it, she is surprised to see that it is a horse, and at the same time, the horse is surprised that she is a human. Even so, they both hug each other, happily expressing that they both know the poem. The horse spends the afternoon recounting its sorrows, explaining that it feels abandoned since it's been a month without seeing Yi Wang, its owner. Yun Xia comforts it, saying that she knows how to communicate with the spirits and it can find her to talk to in the future. The two form a great friendship, and Yun Xia even gives it a new name, Ziwei, since she didn't like the name the horse had before at all. Ziwei is delighted with its new name, and Yun Xia then asks if she can ride on its back for a while. The horse proudly agrees, saying that it will show her how strong it is. As Yun Xia mounts the horse, Yi Wang's younger brother Xiao Po watches her closely, since her older brother's horse was very loyal, and no one but Yi Wang could ride it, not even himself. Xiao Po approaches and stops Yun Xia, asking who she is and who gave her permission to ride that horse. Yun Xia gets defensive, also asking who he is and if it is his horse. He then lies to her, saying that it is his horse, but Ziwei assures Yun Xia that this is not true. Therefore, Yun Xia answers that she will leave if he can prove that it is true. Xiao Po then tries to mount Ziwei, but he won't let him, causing him to fall. He then runs away. Yun Xia calls him a liar, as it was obviously not his horse. This causes the boy to fall to the ground crying, exclaiming what a bad person she is. Yun Xia laughs, but then offers Xiao Po a hand, making him feel better by promising him that she will teach him how to tame Ziwei. After a whole afternoon riding a horse, Yun Xia returns to her house at night. She asks Rice Ball to bring her food, as she is hungry and exhausted. The ghost refuses, saying that it was earned by riding a horse all day. Suddenly, the lights in the house go out, and Yun Xia asks it what it's doing, but Rice Ball assures her that it didn't do anything. A green fireball then appears, forming a ghostly face that screams at them in a terrifying way. However, Yun Xia and Rice Ball are unfazed by this, and instead they both yell back at the ghost. This scares the ghost, and Yun Xia takes the opportunity to punch it, leaving it on the floor. The girl picks up the ghost in annoyance, asking it to identify itself. The little ghost answers that it is called Sesame Seed, and explains that it is only a low-level spirit of the mansion, so it begs to be let go. Yun Xia makes things clear to it that they can leave it alone, but it has to fully serve them from now on. Sesame Seed agrees without hesitation, and soon it accomplishes its first task, bringing Yun Xia a bunch of food, making her very happy. Later that night, Yun Xia dreams about when her parents informed her to marry Yi Wang. She demanded that her Aunt Xu, and her childhood maid, Huier, accompany her. However, Chan Aotian's wife tells him that it is good to leave her, since if she takes them, she might spoil the plan, and the risk of exposing herself would be higher. Besides, Aunt Xu and Huier have been sold to the family under contract, and Yun Xia doesn't have enough funds to buy them. Then she had no choice but to leave them, not knowing that her aunt would become seriously ill, and that Huier would be working excessively under terrible conditions. Returning to the present, Yun Xia wakes up from the dream very worried about her aunt and Huier. Rice Ball encourages her to take a trip back home to see the situation. After all, there is no one to watch her in the mansion. Yun Xia then decides to get out of there, dressing as a man to go unnoticed. When she comes to town, she buys a lot of things, even products that seem to be a con, until she arrives where there is a large crowd. There she manages to see that everyone is looking at the #1 beauty of the Nan family, the girl who Yi Wang treasures in his heart, Nan King Wan. Yun Xai also looks at her in amazement, but she soon manages to see how a man stumbles upon her. Nan, who immediately notices that one of her belongings is missing. Nan's maid tries to follow the thief, but Yun Xai tells them not to worry, that she'll take care of it. As Yun Xai chases after the thief, Yi Wang heads to the city on a boat along with his brothers, to whom he comments how horrible Chunan Otian is for ignoring the safety of his citizens and for messing with them. Yu asks if that's why he married her daughter, but Yi Wang clarifies that it was a marriage granted by his father, the emperor, so neither could get away with it. Though deep down, Yi Wang thinks about the possibility of holding his new wife as a hostage. Yu still mentions that it is a pity because of him and Nan King Wan, since both were separated by an imperial edict. Yi Wang's countenance darkens as he remembers that General Nan fell into Chunan Aotian's trap, ending up underground, and although he was treated like a son by Chunan Aotian, he did not have the chance to return his kindness. For that reason, he will make Chunan Aotian pay with his life for what he did. Seeing Yi Wang break a jade cup with his hand out of anger, Yu tries to change the subject, commenting that he heard that he has a date with Nan King Wan, but he misses her because she hasn't arrived yet. As they get closer to the city, they notice that some kind of fight is taking place. Yi Wang is alerted as he recognizes the same kind of smoke that the thief who infiltrated his mansion used against him. Therefore, he wastes no time in jumping off the ship until he trails behind Yun Xai, placing a hand on her shoulder. But since Yun Xai was finishing her affair with the thief, she thought that Yi Wang was an accomplice, and since she still doesn't recognize him, she grabs his arm and throws him over her shoulder with great force, just like she did with you earlier. Yi Wang gets up and grabs her wrist, asking where she got the smoke she used earlier. However, Yun Xai tells him that it's none of his business and hits him hard on his face. Yi Wang gets angry, questioning how she can punch a lord in the face, then knocks her down and asks her if she is the murderer who attacked him in his mansion. Yun Xai begins to realize who he is talking about, since he called himself a gentleman, so it is quite possible it was her husband. Yi Wang threatens to snap her neck if she doesn't respond, but Nan intervenes worriedly, explaining that the man he is threatening was only trying to catch a thief for her. Seeing the girl, Yi Wang focuses on her and nothing else, leaving Yun Xai and the subject of the thief at his back. Yi Wang's brothers also arrive, and when the matter is finally cleared up, they turn around to see that the thief has disappeared. The only thing left is the belongings that they tried to steal from Nan. Meanwhile, Yun Xai runs away from there, scared to find out that she met Yi Wang in person without knowing it. Nan is relieved to see that all of her belongings are intact, so Yu taunts Yi Wang, saying that he attacked a good guy, but he assures him that this guy was not that good, since 2 days ago, a murderer who infiltrated his mansion used the same smoke as him. Yi Wang tries to send all the soldiers in the capital to look for that man, but his brothers convince him to drop the matter and to accompany Nan as long as she needs him. On the other hand, Yun Xai rests in the forest, scolding Rice Ball for not having helped her before, but it replies that it felt very weak. This doesn't take away the girl's anger, but Sesame Seed tries to support Rice Ball, saying that earlier in the Yi Wang mansion, it also suddenly felt very weak, and it couldn't help itself recover until the next day. Yun Xai remembers the time Rice Ball was weakened for the first time as well, but not being sure, she decides to drop the subject. Shortly after, she returns to the capital, still angry with Rice Ball, so Sesame Seed tries to cheer her up, and she shows her a fascinating inn, commenting that it is the best inn in the entire capital, and they have the best food there. Ruo Yan, the owner of the inn, throws out a customer that did not want to pay, and when he leaves, she arrives. She is delighted with Yun Xai's beauty, thinking that she was a boy, clearly because of the costume of the lady. The woman makes Yun Xai enter the inn and offers her a whole banquet of food completely free, which makes her very happy. Soon, one of the employees calls her, reporting that one of her troublesome customers has arrived. Ruo Yan has no choice but to go, and she attends to Prince Zhen Yi King, who leaves his palace often just to go to the inn to visit her, as he is clearly interested in her. The prince has Ruo Yan accompany him, and in his room he tries to convince her to move into the palace with him and be her mistress. The woman refuses, trying to get the prince off of her, as he is quite irritating, but he keeps insisting. On the other hand, after finishing eating, Yun Xai leaves his room, but hears Ruo Yan asking for help, so she goes to find out what's going on. Seeing the man bothering the woman, Yun Xai bursts into the room, ordering him to leave her alone. Prince Zhen gets angry as he thinks that Yun Xai wants to compete for Ruo's love. Zhen lunges at her, ready to attack, but Yun Xai dodges him several times until she finally slaps him, which sends the prince flying. Ruo Yan watches in terror and approaches Yun Xai to warn her that she must not hit him. Zhen's bodyguard comes out of nowhere, attacking Yun Xai for assaulting the prince. Since she cannot use her mind-blowing smoke indoors, she decides to create a diversion to then run away. Yun Xe jumps from the second floor to the first, but in the air, one of the knives the bodyguard breaks the accessory on her head, causing the girl's hair to hang loose, ruining his costume. Right at that moment, Yi Wang was arriving at the inn together with Nan's siblings. Seeing the girl fall, Yi Wang runs and jumps without thinking, catching her in midair. Holding her in his arms and seeing her well for the first time, Yi Wang notices that she is the same person as before. Yu also recognizes her as the maid she saw swinging on the swing in the mansion, so he takes her hand. Delighted that he has finally found her, he then asks him to let her be his wife. Yi Wang takes Yanix's other hand, telling Yu that he can't do that, but his brother gets angry, exclaiming that he always wants to take his belongings. Yanixai walks away from both of them, angry, but soon Prince Jun also approaches her, commenting that he didn't know she was so beautiful and apologizing to her for being rude earlier. Yanixai gets even angrier and hits him hard enough to knock him to the ground. Yu and Yi Wang start to fight because while Yu wants to marry Yanixai, Yi Wang wants to question her. In the end, the discussion ends as Taopo reminds them that they are with Nan and she is supposed to be the priority. Later, Yanixai is taken back to the mansion, where she reverts to her normal outfit. Yu talks to her, explaining that he really has fallen in love with her and wants to marry her. None of this matters to Yanixi, whom she refuses countless times. Yu is called by someone, and he leaves her alone for a moment in her room. Meanwhile, after investigating, Yi Wang learns that the person they brought to the mansion is not a maid, as Yu had said, but is Princess Yanixi, his wife. Yi Wang immediately goes to tell Yu, while he thinks of Yanixi, wondering if she is a spy sent by Qian Aotian. On the other hand, when Yu returns to Yanixi, he notices that she has completely disappeared. When reviewing the place, he finds a jade and realizes that she has been kidnapped, and he immediately goes to his brother and explains the situation. Sometime later, Yanixi wakes up tied up in a room where Prince Jun is. He explains that since she seems so valuable to Yi Wang and Yu, he wanted to join in on the fun as well, so he will keep her in her mansion just to annoy Yi Wang. Prince Jun tries to get closer to her, but Yanixi savagely bites him, so Jun decides to offer her something nice to calm her down. Jun takes out a small box with some earrings, and says that if she promises to stay in his palace, she will be able to have that pair of crimson earrings. Yanixi was very surprised to see her pair of earrings, as they belonged to her late mother, and her aunt was the one who treasured them all the time. With a dark countenance, Yanixi asks the prince where he got them from, and he tells her that it was a gift from Minister Qian Aotian. The prince again proposes to her to stay in his mansion in exchange for her earrings, but Yanixi refuses, revealing that she is the princess, Yi Wang's wife. This greatly shocks the prince, who screams in terror, but before he can say anything else, Yanixi breaks free of his restraints and hits him. Soon after, thanks to the jade they found in the room, Yi Wang and Yu came to the conclusion that Prince Jun was the one who kidnapped Yanixi, so in a short time they arrive at his palace, demanding that he hands over the girl to them. However, to the prince's surprise, upon returning to the room, he realizes that the girl is gone. Yi Wang threatens him and asks again where she is, but the prince pesters him, asking if he is anxious to find the daughter of his enemy or if he has fallen in love. Yi Wang gets even angrier, clarifying that it's none of his business and saying since he wants to die, he will grant his wish. As he says this, he begins to strangle the prince, but he only smiles, saying that if he kills him, the title of crown prince will once again be his. Yi Wang chokes him more angrily, but Prince Jun's wife stops him, assuring him that neither of them has any idea where the princess went. Making sure that she is telling the truth, Yi Wang and Yu leave the place. Later at night, Yanixi prepares at the Yi mansion to leave the place permanently, packing up her things, including the pair of crimson earrings, which she took from Prince Jun when she had the chance. Yanixi leaves the mansion, determined to find her aunt Xu and to go somewhere far away together, since her father apparently did not keep his promise to treat her aunt well. When Yanixi arrives at the Chan mansion, she notices that something is happening because there are many more guards than normal. Since she can't be seen because of the agreement she has with her father, she infiltrates secretly into the mansion. Upon entering, luckily, the first person she meets is Quier, who tells her how much she has suffered in that place. Yanixi tells her that for that reason she is there to look for them and leave together. Then she asks where her aunt Xu is, but Quier tells her that she has no idea where she has gone. She explains that Princess Shang said that Auntie Xu had malaria, and she couldn't stay there that long, so she kicked her out. Furthermore, everything that was valuable to Aunt Xu was taken away by Qian's wife, Yanixi's stepmother. And there's nothing she could do, since everyone in the mansion is controlled and terrorized by the lady and her daughter Shang, who hasn't stopped harassing and torturing everyone ever since Yun Xie left. Yun Xie comforts her and assures her that she will fix everything for her when she talks to her father, but Claire warns her that she can't do that now. Since an important guest is coming to the mansion, the commander of the Western tribe, Bai Tang Lai, since recently, Qian Otian has been in contact with them, and even though they seem friendly, they are very mysterious. Also, Princess Shang has taken a liking to that man, so she plans to go to the banquet to try and impress him. Hui Er is called to work, so Yun Xie decides to go to her father directly. However, none of her guards recognize her as the princess, since she was sent to the mountains when she was 7 years old, and she has never been back since. Because of this, everyone thinks that the only princess is Shang, and Yun Xie has no more option than to infiltrate in another way. Yun Xie decides to steal the uniform of one of the banquet maids, and after disguising herself as a servant, she manages to enter successfully. However, being inside, even though her father sees her, he doesn't recognize her at all. The one who does notice her is Bai Tang Lai, because when Yun Xie serves her dish, he immediately notices the girl's beauty and does not take his eyes off her. Qian Otian speaks to Bai, explaining that she prepared the best dishes for him, including a scene made of food, the river Arc Mountain, which represents the shape of the land of the two countries, showing prosperity and peace. Bai Tang Lai expresses how much he likes what he did, as he keeps his gaze on her. Yun Xie is confused by how much he looks at her, but soon everyone's attention is drawn to one of the servants, who accidentally steps on her dress and falls. Yun Xie reacts immediately, and with speed and agility prevents the maid from falling on the important work, which impresses Bai. However, the stew that the maid was carrying inevitably spills over onto the work, leaving a puddle on it. Qian Otian gets up from his table, completely furious, making the servant girl terrified and gets down on one knee, begging him to spare her life. Qian then orders them to take her out of her place and to hit her hard about 80 times. Yun Xie comes between them, saying that he can't do something like that, since there is a guest in the mansion. But since Qian doesn't recognize his own daughter, he angrily exclaims at her audacity in answering, and he orders that she be taken out and beaten as well. However, Princess Shang arrives at the place calmly and gracefully, asking why they were angry at the two maids. Her father explains that the maid destroyed the Art Mountain, which represents a cause between both countries. Princess Shang still explains that she sees it as a good omen, as the stew that fell into the work can represent a body of water that shows that the relationship between the countries will be closer than ever. Qian is really impressed by his daughter's words, so his mood improves considerably. Princess Shang smiles victoriously, but her smile disappears when she sees Bai Tang Lai and how he has his gaze fixed on one of her servants and he is not paying attention to her. Qian Otian apologizes to Bai for the events and formally introduces her daughter to him. Bai Tang Lai looks at her for a few seconds without interest, but then returns her gaze to Yun Xie and tells them not to worry. Xuan's mother tries to get Bai's attention, saying that her daughter had her dress made just for that occasion. Still, Bai only praises the words Shang said about the play, and then says that the maids didn't mean to do it, so he asks Xuan not to be very hard on them. Yun Xie is surprised to see that the man is helping them, and Princess Shang sides with Bai, acting as nice as possible, and asking him to simply punish them by not giving them a month's pay. Qian Otian finally agrees, and orders the maids to leave the place. Soon after, Yun Xie sits in a remote place, despondent about everything that happened. Within seconds, Bai Tang Lai appears behind her, surprising her by getting quite close to her. Yun Xie pushes him away, getting defensive, to which Bai apologizes with a smile, explaining that she just looks very familiar. He asks her name, but she doesn't say anything as she tries to leave the place. However, Bai Tang Lai grabs her wrist and won't let her go, so Rice Ball and Sesame Seed try to help her. This doesn't work much, but Yun Xie still gets rid of Bai after slapping him and calling him a pervert and leaving the place. On the other hand, the news that Minister Qian invited the commander of the Western tribe had reached Yi Wang, who is also informed that Yun Xie is in Qian's mansion. Yi Wang only smiles at this discovery, as this only confirms that she really is a spy sent by Qian Otian. Yun Xie bumps into her younger sister, Princess Shang, who gets angry when she notices that she is the servant that Bai Tang Lai kept looking at during the banquet. Yun Xie reveals her identity, but even though Shang realizes that she is her sister, she pretends not to know her and orders the guards to arrest her. Shortly after, when she talks to her, mentioning how dirty she is for seducing Bai Tang Lai at the banquet despite being married to Yi Wang. They both argue angrily until Qian Otian arrives with his wife, and Princess Shang immediately changes her attitude, starting to cry and saying that the servant assaulted her. Yun Xi introduces herself to her father, who finally recognizes her and asks what she is doing there. She replies that she just wants to find her aunt Su and Kier, clarifying that no one knows that she is there. Her father scolds her, reminding her that if she does anything out of character, she will harm the entire Qian mansion, so she had better return back immediately. Yun Xi makes it clear that she will return, but only on 2 conditions: that she can take Kuei with her, and that he promises to help her find her aunt Su to treat her illness. Qian's wife and Princess Shang try to stop Qimon from allowing this, lying that Kuei is not suffering, and that they had no choice about aunt Su. Yun Xi puts up with all the lies they tell, until Shang insults her late mother and makes her heroin reach her limit. Yun Xi holds back no more from her and slaps Shang hard, saying that she can insult her, but never to her mother. Qian gets up in a rage, demanding that he apologize to Shang, but seeing Yun Xi doesn't give in to him, he orders the guards to get her out of there and hit her hard about 30 times. Yun Xi is tied up but still insists that she has done nothing wrong, so she only prepares for her unfair punishment. But before they can touch her, Yi Wang bursts in, ordering them to stop. The guards freeze at Yi Wang's authority, and the Qian family approaches him, apologizing and bowing as a sign of respect. Yi Wang explains that he is only there to look for his wife, and as he talks, Shang blushes seeing how handsome he is, thinking that maybe it wouldn't have been a bad idea to marry him. After clearing everything up, Yi Wang says that he has important matters to attend to, so now that he has his wife, he will leave immediately. Yun Xi takes advantage of the situation to say that the reason she left her mansion is because she was very lonely, so she asks if she can take her childhood maid with her back to her Yi mansion, so she won't run away from him again. He also innocently says that it shouldn't be a problem. She also asks her father to find out the whereabouts of her aunt Su in 10 days, because if she doesn't see her aunt again, she doesn't know what kind of trash she'll talk about later. Yi Wang sees through her intentions, noting how clever the girl is to take advantage of the power situation. Qian gets angry seeing Yun Xi discreetly threatening him, but he still controls himself and says that he will do the best he can. Thus, Yun Xi manages to take Kuei with her and leaves with Yi Wang, while Bai Tang Lai watches in the distance, smiling to discover that the girl he was so interested in is actually Yi Wang's wife. Then we are introduced to Chu Jiao, the woman in charge of the Yi residence and one of Yi Wang's many concubines. It is explained that Yi Wang has many concubines, due to all of them being assigned to him by the ancient majesty. Zhao looks really upset because unlike before, when Yi Wang used to lend her more attention from her, being one of her favorites, right now he doesn't listen to her anymore and ignores her most of the time. Soon after, the other concubines explain that Yi Wang currently has a new favorite, his wife Yun Xi. This makes Zhao very angry, who one day decides to snap out of it, and she finds Yun Xi playing with Kuei in the pool of water. Approaching her, Yun Xi accidentally throws water at her, causing Kuei to panic and apologize for her to the woman. Zhao gets angry and kicks her hard, which makes Yun Xi angry, and asks why she hurt Kuei when she was the one who splashed her. One of Zhao's servants explains that she has complete authority over all maids. Zhao drops the subject, but she still complains to Kuei about the flower that she has on her head, since the fact that a servant girl plucks a flower for herself is an act of transgression. Yun Xi defends her, since she was the one who insisted on giving the flower to Kuei, but soon they explain to her that they are the rules of the mansion. Therefore, Zhao orders her servant to slap Kuei's mouth. Yun Xi allows this, but only because rice ball and sesame seeds are there to help. When the maid slaps Kuei, she does not feel any pain, and instead, Zhao is the one who takes the damage from the blows. She stops everything and accuses Yun Xi of having done witchcraft, but Yun Xi says that the rules were followed, so she leaves the place with Kuei. Zhao orders the maids to stop them, and she rushes over to them, really furious. However, in the midst of all the conflict, Yi Wang appears, causing rice ball and sesame seed to fall limp. Zhao immediately changes her attitude to that of the victim, and when Yi Wang asks what happened, she tells her story on her behalf. After much discussion, thanks to Xiao Po, Yi Wang decides not to punish Yun Xi. However, since she rudely leaves without asking, Yi Wang orders them to be locked up. 3 days in stock, Zhao discreetly orders all the maids not to give them any food while they are there. Still, Yun Xi and Kuei manage to eat thanks to rice ball and sesame seed, who brings food when they need it. On the other hand, Jiao talks to her servants and orders one of them to look for one of the best exorcists, since somehow he has to expose Yun Xie for her witchcraft to Yi Wang, so that he divorces her. 2 days pass, and Yun Xie has a dream about her old teacher from the mountains. In the dream, memories of Yun Xie's 15th birthday are shown, where her teacher gives him a flower crown, specifically made with magic orchids, special flowers that do not grow on Lingyun Mountain. When Yun Xie wakes up from sleep, a group of servants take her away, and at Yi Wang's orders, they all start to fix her up, leaving her very pretty. Then, not knowing where she will go, Yun Xie gets in a carriage, but seeing Yi Wang inside it, the girl immediately tries to run away. But Yi Wang quickly catches her and makes Yun Xie sit with him, forcing her to go in the carriage. They both arrive at the palace where they meet Yi Wang's brothers. There Yun Xie meets Yi Wang's younger sister, Princess Lan Shang, who is celebrating her birthday. Everyone drinks tea and talks for a while, and Princess Lan keeps trying to annoy Yun Xie to see what kind of person she is. Still, Yun Xie is unaffected by any of her comments, and she manages to keep her composure. Shortly after, she finds out that it is the princess's birthday, so she makes an excuse to retire for a moment and heads to the palace gardens. There, she is dedicated to looking for a gift for Princess Lan, because although that girl does not have good intentions towards her, her teacher taught her that this occasion is something very important. Amongst all the flowers in the garden, the protagonist finds a little flower sprite, who is surprised to realize that Yun Xie can see her. The little pixie acts suspiciously and questions who she really is. Yun Xie answers her in a whisper, and her answer is enough to convince the fairy to trust her. She then asks for her help, explaining that it is the princess's birthday and she wants to give her a floral wreath. The little fairy asks what flowers she is looking for, and Yun Xie tells her that she needs magical orchids. The flower elf is surprised and explains that magical orchids only bloom every 1,000 years, being one of the rarest flowers for fairies. In addition to the fact that they only grow on cliffs and they are protected all year round, so an ordinary person could never get close to one. Since she can't offer her magic orchids, the elf creates a floral wreath with orchids, explaining that although they are not superior to magical orchids, they are also a treasure that blooms every 300 years, so the princess will surely like them. Having the gifts ready, she keeps them, then thanks the fairy and returns with the others. Before the birthday party starts, they present all the valuable gifts one by one that each guest brought for the princess. When they finally finish, the emperor orders them to start the party, but the wife of Qian Otian interrupts him, and she makes a whole scene complaining to Yun Xie about how disrespectful she is for not having presented a gift. Yun Xie smiles and says that she does have a gift prepared, and surely it is something that she has never seen. Hearing this, Princess Lan yawns, expressing that she is not interested in her gift, and Qian's wife calls Yun Xie impolite, since Princess Lan was always very pampered by the emperor, and she had already seen all kinds of treasures. Qian tries to stop the discussion since it is the princess's birthday that matters, but the emperor speaks, expressing that he is intrigued to know what the birthday gift is. Yun Xie then shows the gift to him, explaining that it is a flower crown. Everyone begins to murmur, and her father insults her for daring to offer such a cheap gift and in bad taste. Yun Xie gets angry, but Yi Wang rushes to her defense, also telling the wife of Qian that creating a ruckus in such a situation is very impolite. Qian gets angry and starts arguing with Yi Wang. Even the empress chimes in, berating Yi Wang for failing to assess the severity of the situation. Seeing everyone arguing, Princess Lan puts on her floral crown, and very worried about Yi Wang, she tells her grandmother, the empress, not to bother with her older brothers since she really likes her gift very much. When the empress looks at the princess, she is very surprised to see her floral crown, and she asks if those flowers are GZ orchids. Since these flowers only bloom every 300 years and are extremely difficult to obtain, they are quite precious. Furthermore, it takes a person with a high degree of heart to have the quality to take care of those flowers. Suddenly, a bunch of butterflies come to the place, surrounding the princess and surprising everyone. They soon realize that it is the scent of the GZ orchids that attracts the butterflies, so the princess is very happy to be surrounded by so many. The empress also expressed her joy, since in her entire life she had never managed to see those flowers, and she had only seen them in portraits. Really impressed, the empress claps her hands with a smile, saying that it turned out to be the perfect gift from her. The emperor also recognizes that it is a great gift, and that Yun Xie really put a lot of effort into it. With this, the Yi mansion looks very good before everyone, and the emperor finally orders that they start the party. As the party progresses, Yun Xie continues to impress everyone, as even when it starts to rain and everything seems ruined, she uses her determination and skills to start putting up a roof to keep the party going. Yi Wang sees that she sincerely tries to help and he joins her, helping her put the roof together. until he can finish it. When they finish, Yun Xai changes her outfit and appears before the emperor, who is waiting for her really impressed. He tells her that she has done a merit for Princess Lan, so he was thinking of rewarding her. The emperor asks Yun Xai what she would like as a reward, but the girl replies that she doesn't want anything, since being able to help the princess's party continue already makes her very happy. The emperor is happy, commenting that this is a great answer, since it shows that she is very different from the rest. He still tells her that in that case, she can claim the reward from him at any time. The party manages to end well, and everyone starts to leave, but before Yi Wang and Yun Xai leave, Princess Lan stops them. With a smile, she hands a gift to Yun Xai, thanking her for the floral wreath made of Jizi orchids, and for the roof that she put together so that her birthday could continue. Yun Xai thanks her for her gift, and Princess Lan hugs her, showing that she has earned the love of her after all. Leaving the palace, Yi Wang and Yun Xai meet Nan King Wan, who thanks Yun Xai for having recovered what was stolen from her at that time. She explains that in the purse that was stolen from her, she keeps a jade talisman that her father left her, a very important object for her. Yun Xai is glad that she was able to help, but seeing the jade talisman that Nan gave her, she is worried when she sees that it has an evil aura. Nan starts to cough, and Yun Xai realizes that that evil aura has apparently affected Nan's health. Therefore, Yun Xai recommends that Nan put on a cluster of body pearls as it will help her. She also tells him that when she feels better, she should visit her at her residence since she will find a way to remove the poison from her. Nan accepts and thanks her for her help before saying goodbye to them. In the carriage back to the mansion, Yi Wang asks Yun Xai what she is up to. Since her father is a greedy, cheating, and disloyal corrupt official, he let the army and Nan's father become a big pool of blood. So he asks Yun Xai not to try to deceive him with her innocent face, because he himself will make her father pay for what he has done. Still, he tells her that he will spare her life on the condition that she stays quiet inside her residence and that she stays away from Nan. Yun Xai tells him that she will not stay away from people, explaining that she is not her father, and she is certain that she can cure Nan's disease, so it is something that she will not ignore. When they arrive at his residence, Yi Wang sends Yun Xai to her house, ordering that they cannot let her leave without his consent. Yun Xai at night talks to Kuei and complains about Yi Wang, but still opens the gift that Princess Lan gave her with emotion. The gift turns out to be a whip, which Yun Xai soon tests with excitement. Yi Wang manages to see her from the outside, and he is inevitably delighted to see her having fun. The next day, Yi Wang sends one of his servants to fetch Yun Xai, so that she goes to his house. Even though Yun Xai doesn't like the idea of him, Rice Ball encourages her to go, since she wants to find out if Yi Wang possesses some kind of golden jade ring. That would explain the reason why he and Sesame Seed get weaker every time Yi Wang is around. Yun Xai agrees, but ends up in a big conflict because of Jiao, so Yi Wang announces that starting the next day, if Yun Xai ever disobeys him, she will be punished. The next day, Yun Xai had no choice but to serve Yi Wang personally, with quite a bit of annoyance. When she is finally done with everything, Yi Wang tells her that she can't leave yet, and orders her to clean up the garden, then she can leave afterwards. Yun Xai gets quite angry, but when he goes to the garden, her mood improves considerably. There again, she meets the flower spirit who helped her with Princess Lan's gift. This little fairy introduces herself as Xiao Mei, and besides her, Yun Xai also meets the tree fairy, Mu Ting, who helps her clean up the entire garden effortlessly. Since she finishes much earlier than planned, Yun Xai decides to swing on the swing in the garden. But while she is there, the dead tree on the swing begins to glow, and it suddenly comes back to life, revealing another fairy. A little old man who claims to be a ginkgo tree explains that he has been sleeping for several years, but Yun Xai has woken him up. Before he can explain further, he falls asleep again, and Xiao Mei says that he might need some time to recover, since he just woke up after being sealed for a long time. Jiao asks her servant once more about the exorcist, and she says that he had traveled, so he should return in a few days. Yi Wang continues to investigate the Yun Xai and Qian mansion. He finds out that Qian has lied to the royal family. He insists that the guard should continue his investigation so as to be ascertained. The next few days, Yun Xai cleans and searches Yi Wang's entire house. He doesn't find any golden jade rings. Yun Xai decides to find out if he has the ring on him, so not seeing it in any of his hands, she pretends to trip and spills tea on him, in order to dry it herself and take advantage of checking if he has any rings. Yun Xai finds nothing, so she leaves Yi Wang, and as she tries to leave, he stops her. Clearly upset, Yi Wang grabs her by the wrist and Yun Xai threatens to use her ultimate technique if he doesn't let go. Even so, he only pulls her closer, and suddenly, he kisses her, and doesn't let go, and Yun Xai starts to cry. Yi Wang is surprised, since it is the first time he has seen her cry, so he hugs her and he pleads her not to cry, but Yun Xai punches him in the stomach, and she runs away. The next day, Yun Xai calls in sick, so as not to go serve Yi Wang, but he himself goes to visit her and discovers her lie. The two argue and Yi Wang even kisses her again, but Yun Xai asks him not to bother her, since the best thing is if both of them are not related in any form. This makes Yi Wang later leave upset, thinking of all his encounters with the girl, realizing that he was falling for her. Soon after, one of his informants, after doing a lot of research, informs Yi Wang about the Qian's lie, finding out that they sent Qian Yun Exide, posing as Qian Yun Shang, the princess who the emperor chose. Yi Wang smiles, as this information can be used against Qian, since he will not be able to escape the crime of having lied to the emperor. Yi Wang decides to confront Yun Exide, revealing that he knows the secret of her family. She is surprised at first, but then she gets angry and asks what he wants. Yi Wang tells her that he wants her to go to the place where he lives every day, and that she serves him without refusing. With no other choice, Yun Xai spends her days going to Yi Wang's house, but decides to make him angry, so that he will ask her to stop going. So every day, Yun Xai creates disaster every day, even going so far as to burn down the kitchen and break various valuable items. But to her misfortune, Yi Wang doesn't seem the slightest bit bothered by any of this. He repeats all the time that as long as his wife is okay, everything else doesn't matter. In the end, Yi Wang sees through the girl's intentions, so he doesn't let himself be affected by anything, and Yun Xai eventually gives up. After spending some time living together, Yun Xai one day meets a hostile demon in the mansion. She threatens the demon, but it still attacks her, throwing several rocks towards her. However, Yi Wang appears and saves her, thinking that someone was hiding and throwing stones, since he cannot see the demon. Yun Xai pushes him away, that this is something he cannot face, but still Yi Wang approaches her again, to protect her from another sudden attack, receiving a stake through his shoulder. When the demon attacks again, it is surprised to see that Yun Xai was able to repel all of its demonic energy. Yun Xai looks at the demon with confidence, telling it that it will not be able to attack her. However, the demon replies that it will not attack her, and launches its second attack. Yun Xai immediately realizes what it is referring to, since the demon aimed directly at Yi Wang. She does not hesitate to jump in front of him to protect him. When doing this, Yi Wang is surprised to see her, and we are shown for a few seconds what seem to be memories from her past life, where Yi Wang and Yun Xai were very happy together. Returning to the present, Yi Wang and Yun Xai embrace, and suddenly, a jade ring appears on Yi Wang's hand. The ring activates a very strong type of protection which corners the demon, leaving it with no choice but to disappear. When everything is over, Yun Xai takes Yi Wang to a room to treat his wounds, as it is quite serious from the demon's poison. The Ginkgo tree elder is the one who examines it, and then uses magic to extract the poison. Therefore, Yun Xai manages to treat it like a common wound, using an ointment that the old man gives her. Yun Xai tells Rice Ball that she found the ring he had mentioned as it appeared on Yi Wang's finger. But when the demon disappeared, the ring did too. The old man of the Ginkgo tree clarifies that he did not really disappear, but only appears when he is in trouble. Yi Wang eventually awakens, and to Yun Xai's surprise, he now has the ability to see the spirits. So she introduces him to everyone she knows, including Rice Ball and the old man of the tree and all the others. Yun Xai then notices that Rice Ball and Sesame Seed can now approach Yi Wang without weakening. The Ginkgo tree elder explains that this is because the crystal enchantment that restricted the approach of demons was destroyed, and for that reason Yi Wang also can see them. Despite not having any more information than that, Yun Xai decides to spend the next few days taking care of Yi Wang, helping him with things that are difficult for him due to his shoulder injury. After a while, Yi Wang heals, but he doesn't say anything, only for Yun Xai to keep taking care of him. Yun Xai continues to live with Yi Wang, coming to get along with him, and realizing the feelings she has towards him. Yi Wang ordered his personal maid not to let anyone into his house and not to bother him for several days. But when Zhou finds out that he had an injury, she breaks into the house, and on seeing Yun Xai, she warns her to get out of her way. Yi Wang gets mad at her, calling her disrespectful for daring to confront his wife in front of him, and for defying his orders by breaking into his house. After scolding her, he orders her to leave the place immediately, so shortly after, Jiao leaves, completely furious, accusing Yunxi of having done something to Yi Wang using some evil technique. Days later, Jiao decides to take action. She takes the exorcist to the King Mansion, finally taking the best exorcist she could find, taking him to Yunxi's house while she was gone. The priest begins to work, while Jiao oversees everything and the maids keep care and mistreat her. Sesame Seed helps her, and it soon begins to fight with the priest, but he summons a powerful boy who defeats Sesame Seed in a short time. Soon after, Yunxi arrives and finds all the mess, and seeing Sesame Seed on the ground, and Ki-Er badly beaten, she completely loses her composure. Yunxi gets quite angry, and slaps Jiao hard, making her fall to the ground. While the other concubines look on, Jiao gets angry and gets up to claim her respect, but Yunxi does not hesitate to slap her many times with great force. While the priest continues with his ritual, Yunxi sees how the vegetation of the place begins to die quickly, so she herself begins to destroy his work, facing the priest herself. The priest is impressed by Yunxi's ability, so he tries to take her away to become his disciple. But Yi Wang arrives just then, threatening him with his sword, angrily, saying that no other man besides himself has the right to approach Yunxi. The priest confronts him, but seeing Yi Wang's strength, he decides to withdraw and runs from the place. Jiao turns to Yi Wang, explaining that she just wanted to do the residents a favor by getting rid of the demons. Yi Wang doesn't even let her finish speaking and points his sword at Jiao's neck, threatening and ordering them to get out of the place. The old man of the ginkgo tree is in charge of healing the wounds of Koi-Er and Sesame Seed, leaving them like new. One day, without warning, Yi Wang begins his move to Yunxi's house, explaining to her that from that day on, he would live with her to accompany his dear wife. Somewhere in the forest, we see the demon that attacked them before, informing its master that it has already found the whereabouts of the ring. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time guys, take care.